Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for November 7th, 2024. Coming up, Paul George returns to face the Clippers. The Lakers are having some internal division. We've got a controversial call in Denver that gives them a win. And we get Anthony Slater to talk about the Warriors' big win over the Celtics. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, S. Guys, wow, what another crazy night in the NBA. The NBA just loaded up the schedule post-election day, thankfully. And we had what I am calling animosity night in the NBA. Right now, it feels like nobody likes each other. And I actually think that's kind of cool. That's how sports is supposed to work. Yeah. We had Paul George making his Sixers debut at Intuit Dome and getting blown out, man. This was a dud, much like Paul George's time with the Clippers. The Clippers put a hurting on them. The final score was 110-98, but it really wasn't all that close. Clippers defense really shut them down. And I think the worst thing to happen in this game, if you're the Sixers, isn't just the loss, is that, man, Tyrese Maxey seems to have injured his hamstring in this game. So again, this is a very Paul George Clippers game for the Sixers in the Intuit Dome.
It must feel like Groundhog's Day for Paul George right now. Between the Embiid injury and now Maxey getting hurt, it's just like, how do I go from LA to Philadelphia and it's just the same story? But that being said, the Maxey injury hurts a lot, right? They officially listed it as hamstring soreness. We'll see how that elevates, and we'll see inevitably what that ends up being. But on the PG front, I feel like this is silly from the Clippers' perspective, turning their backs. I don't understand it.
Yeah, the Clippers fans during the game, they turned their backs on PG, and they had a sign that said, PG, think before you speak. I'm not sure. Again, Paul George wasn't there that long. It's not like he's some, all-time great for this franchise or anything like that. I don't think Clippers fans really cared all that much, and the Clippers didn't even offer him the same money.
They didn't want him. That's the part that's baffling to me. It's like this was the Clippers' decision to not bring Paul George back. This was not Paul George saying, I'm leaving, I'm out the door. No, this wasn't anything like that. That doesn't make sense to me.
So the boos, listen, they were half-hearted boos at best.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because again, I just felt like Clippers fans couldn't gin up enough feeling about it.
There was a tribute video. He's the guy who led them to the Western Conference Finals for the first time. Congratulations.
That's it. Well, all right, we got to talk about the Lakers. And normally, this is kind of a podcast trope, right? We always have talked about the Lakers. This is an odd one because the Lakers got blown out, and that's why we got to talk about them. Look, Memphis just handed it to them. 131-114. Ja Morant, just crazy. They had no answer for him. Jaren Jackson was really, really good in this game. No Anthony Davis for the Lakers. LeBron in this game, I mean, he plays just a tremendous amount of minutes in what equates to a blowout. He plays 35 minutes, scores 39 points. After the game,
JJ Redick, a lot of animosity.
Yeah, JJ Redick was not happy. They essentially benched D'Angelo Russell during this game. He only plays 22 minutes. After the game, JJ Redick is saying, the only person out there really competing is LeBron. I didn't like the level of compete that we were getting from D'Angelo Russell. That's why he didn't get back out there. He was throwing shots before the game at guys who were playing minutes and not getting enough shots. Listen, this is very, very early in his coaching career to be doing this, much less his tenure. I have this feeling that he's like coaching the game a little too heavily and not thinking enough about the season. You got to think about the forest, man.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's what comes with the territory of bringing on a player coach, right? Because they still have the tendency of a player to be obsessive about the game itself. And so when that goes haywire, it builds and it has that level of frustration. And, we talked to Jovan Buha last week where he actually saw JJ become actively mad in one of the press conferences after their loss, I believe, against the Cavaliers. And so there's this, you could tell that he still is a player in his heart, right? And so some of these moments might hit him a little bit more than it should for a coach who's still trying to figure things out. I will say, though, he's not wrong about D'Angelo Russell.
No.
He's been outright terrible to start the year. 12 points, shooting like 37% from the field, 29% from three. It's just been it's been bad for D'Lo. And for a team that is already lacking in the shooting department, having one of their quote unquote best shooters not be able to hit their shots, I don't blame JJ really for calling. You know what I mean?
Yes, but also there's a right and a wrong way to do things. I just think it's divisive for your team. You know, your ego is not your amigo, and especially if you're going to be a basketball coach. I just think you got to, just chill out just a little bit. You don't need a good sound bite.
Your
right?
ego is not your amigo.
Ask Doc Rivers how these sound bites work out. We got to get to the game tonight. Last night, because I don't know what we were expecting. The Nuggets are they're short-handed right now. They had no Jamal Murray, no Aaron Gordon, and I mean this was a huge problem for them against the Thunder. And the Thunder already seemed like they had their number after that opening night win, and it looked like it again in this game. But the Nuggets just gutted this one out. They had a 40-point third quarter, and they come back and win it 124-122. We're going to start at the finish though.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic gets fouled on what is, I have to say, it did not look like a foul to me.
Hand is part of the ball.
Hand's part of the ball. That's right.
Like,
Alex Caruso, the Nuggets are up 3. Jokic, end of shot clock, has to take a heave, essentially like just a desperation shot from top of the key. Alex Caruso contests, high fives in one of the contests. Jokic gets a bailout foul call, in my opinion. They go to the replay and the play
challenge it.
That's
the thing that's bizarre to me is, I think the ruling always is hand is a part of the ball. And so if there's any level of contact with the hand, I've seen it typically be overturned. Yeah. And for that to stand, I wonder if there was something else on the play that they saw contact wise, maybe with the body. But that was bizarre. And then the finish at the end with Peyton Watson getting that crazy block on SGA2. This was an awesome win for Denver, who is trying to figure out the machinations of like what their bench looks like. Russell Westbrook had a great game with 29 points.
And the box score peepers are going to see the negative plus minus for him, but you got to go back and watch the game when they were getting blown out. He was the only thing working.
Totally. He set the tone. Like, he was pushing it in transition, especially against like how good of a defense the Oklahoma City Thunder are. You want to push in transition to not see them set. So he was setting the tone for them. I thought Michael Porter Jr. had a good game too. It was a pretty crazy game overall. I will say, maybe the injuries are a blessing in disguise. Maybe this is like their way of figuring out how this team works.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
If they lost this game, would you have said the exact same thing?
Fair. That's fair.
Yes, definitely not. Coming up after the break, we got Anthony Slater to talk about the Warriors and their 7-1 start, 5-0 on the road for the first time since the 2015-2016 season S. I smell this conference finals run. I think
you called it.
I think we're on one. We said the other day that the Warriors are off to a great start, but we haven't seen them play anybody. Well, last night they beat the Celtics 118-112. I guess you could say they played somebody. They beat somebody. So we got somebody. Anthony Slater, our beat reporter that covers the Warriors, the Kings. I mean, you're writing about Oklahoma City, but you were in the Garden last night to watch the Warriors beat the Celtics. What were your initial impressions on what I think we could all classify as a statement win this early in the season?
Well, I've had a few Warriors people be like, "Hey, Houston's pretty good. Can you give us that Houston win? Like, does that not count?"
No way. No.
But then
they
I was
fought
like,
off the comeback. They fought off the comeback, right?
I did, but that is the point I made to them. I was like, you did blow a 31-point lead in that game, and then they're like, no Steph, Draymond fouls out, Pajemski fouls out. It was a good win. The Houston one was good. This one was better. This one was more impressive. Boston, without Jaylen Brown, without Porzingis, this wasn't like full throttle Boston. There was a lot more rotation places you could pick at. But they held Boston to 40 points in the first half, and then they went down 7 in the fourth quarter. And, talking to Draymond Green post game and Looney a little bit too, like the Houston game when Houston came back and tied it and actually took a 1-point lead in that fourth, and then this game tonight when they play a good game. We would all golf clap if they had lost that game in the fourth quarter. Said, hey, they look pretty good. Warriors are solid. but they lose that game last year. And they were agreeing, like, we don't come back. We don't survive that onslaught in Houston or in Boston and come back and win the game. So what they did down the stretch was impressive. There are a lot of reasons for it. The depth, defense, which we talked about. And then just like Looney, for example, just looks slimmer and better this year. He has 2 huge putbacks. Gary Payton, how good was he in his burst stretch today? Physically, he couldn't have done that last season. So there's just a lot of things going right.
Also, I want to point out, Steph Curry came back in this game with about 8 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And that's a little early for Steve Kerr in the rotation, typically. And especially I'm thinking coming back from an injury, I'm guessing we're not going to be seeing Steph until like the 6-minute mark. But I thought that was instrumental. And it worked out. The end of the game, you got a couple of like some delays on calls or whatever. So whatever the rest issue you might have dealt with Steph, I thought wasn't a concern, but he looks great coming back from the ankle injury.
It was really the first game of the season he's looked great, which, by the way, is the first game of the season he's played 30 minutes because they blow out Portland and Utah, and he doesn't even have to play the fourth quarter, and then they're playing this 12-man rotation. And then he sprains his ankle twice in the third game, the Clippers game, misses 3 games, comes back in D.C., and I don't think they were trying to necessarily disrespect the Wizards with this, but it was clear Steph almost was using that Wizards game as a tune-up for tonight, even after the game. It's like, I played 24 minutes tonight, but that was so I could play 30-plus against Boston. And, they went a little bit more normal star rotation, which Steve Kerr's always been willing to do that, to go chase down a win, right? That's the Warriors fan base favorite Steve Kerr phrase. Is he chasing a win tonight or not? He chased it. And, again, we can get into a bunch of things. I think Steve Kerr's coaching a really good opening month.
Was it a revenge game, right?
His pregame press conference was something here. It was super sarcastic against the Boston fans, almost being like, maybe they should cheer me. I only won a gold medal for the country and got 3 of their players gold medals, right? Does Derek White matter? Does Drew Holiday matter? By the way, there was 4 Celtics fans. I don't know if it seemed a little Barstool type. They were all wearing the Team USA. All wearing in like a seat down from Steve Kerr. I was like, that's excellent from the Boston fans. But sure,
I've been toying with the idea that Steve Kerr has gotten a Team USA coaching bump. And part of it is actually benching Tatum. That's got to be a little bit empowering to say, hey, Jason Tatum's one of the best players in the world, and I'm going to sit him down, and it's the right thing to do. And then you win a gold medal.
And then you say, coach, you know what, Jonathan Kuminga, I think you can come off the bench.
That's right.
Actually, that's something I want to ask. So Buddy Hield is on fire to start the year. They move Kuminga to the bench. They're leading the league in bench points this season just by 1.5 miles. First, obviously the Steve Kerr element of being empowered to do that. But second, what is it about the fact that they can just plug and play anybody and it'll work in that system that they run?
I think they have become better over the last few years of specifically going after guys that will fit in the system. It isn't that everyone can, because Kelly
we've seen it not.
Kelly Oubre certainly did not. There's scar tissue for James Wiseman. To be honest, Kuminga doesn't really. Now Kuminga does a lot of stuff that they really need. He won him the Houston game because people fouled out and they're like, they need a bucket from somewhere. Kuminga's individual skill kind of got them that win, but Buddy Hield was a guy they for years have thought would work perfectly as the kind of the movement shooter, Clay 2.0, whatever you want to call him. Ime Udoka said that he's basically is doing all the Klay Thompson stuff the other day after they played him. He's just scorching hot right now. Also, I think he's like 50% from 3 on high volume. That won't continue, but he's having a good time. He's really compared to the Philadelphia days, where I don't think they were just passing to him that often, and they certainly weren't using him in movement ways that he prefers to play in. He's glowing about how fun it is to play with Steph Curry, how fun it is to play in the system, and it does seem to fit him. And he's shooting the hell out of it.
So this defense, they held the Celtics to 40 points in the first half of this game. Obviously, the second half, look, the Celtics, they have a system and they are getting up threes. That's another story for another day, that the Warriors weren't able to keep pace with the Celtics in 3-point attempts, but they were able to make the looks tough. They were able to cut off the inside. I mean, what's the difference between last year's defense and this year's defense? Because I saw this in the preseason, and I've seen it so far this season. I think they're going to be a top 5 defense when it all shakes out, as long as they can stay healthy with their guys. But what's the big difference in your mind?
Personnel. They would tell you that too. They're trying to tell you that in subtler ways that isn't, taking shots at 2 Hall of Famers, because you were talking about last year they had a lot of Klay Thompson, Chris Paul, Steph Curry lineups, and just couldn't stay in front of the ball. I mean, that's been like when you asked them, hey, what's the biggest difference? It's like we just kept getting beat off the dribble last year, and then it's rotation, swing, three. We haven't even barely seen much DeAnthony Melton, but he's going to be a big help to them. Kyle Anderson, Gary Payton is healthy, as I mentioned. Looney looks healthy. Draymond's engaged. They're starting Draymond next to a center, Trayce Jackson-Davis, which they decided very late last season. It's just a must. He wants it. Draymond prefers to play with the center next to him, protecting the rim so he can roam. And they're prioritizing defense over offense. I think they're going to have offensive issues at various points this season, but they've just decided, and you saw it tonight. Remember they go down 14-3?
Yep.
They just kind of drag their way back into it because Boston went scoreless for 5 minutes, 5 straight minutes. And it's not like they were just, oh, wow, they shot back into it because Steph, got nuclear. It's just like they just kept getting stopped. So that is what they want their identity to be. And they added this summer with that in mind, particularly Melton and Kyle Anderson. Pajemski's a really good team defender. They're just playing better defenders. And then the other thing I will say, because they keep talking about it, Jerry Stackhouse, they hired him away.
Interesting.
From the college, and he's fired up on the sidelines, and he's delivering a level of accountability that they say they haven't had on the defensive end since Mike Brown. Implementing
new voices in the room, right? It's good.
Yeah. No, I mean he's different than the other Warriors coaches. He carries the level of oh wow, that's Jerry Stackhouse over there, and also he's kind of yelling at people and stuff. And
you could hear him on the broadcast yelling. It's very loud.
Hey, that's a good thing. Listen, sometimes those guys, you got to get into them a little bit. Although I don't know if you got to ever yell at Steph Curry.
It's funny you say that because my lead of my story tonight is going to be a second quarter turnover when they were up 4. That Steph Curry just flung a terrible pass up court. There was a no chance. It gets picked off. Celtics bring it back, hit a 3, and Steve Kerr yells at Steph Curry, lights into him, calls timeout, is yelling at him in the huddle because they've spent all offseason saying, we are not who we used to be. We don't have Kevin Durant. We can't just turn it over 18 times but win by 18 because we're so much better than everyone. We need to win in the margins. And those are the plays that they're demanding that Steph and Draymond cut out. So I say that because you said you can't yell at Steph Curry. You can yell at Steph Curry.
You can yell at
Steph
Curry. Yeah. And, just don't kill the joy. That's all that matters to me. Anthony Slater, go and read him over at The Athletic. He's got literally all the coverage that you need if you love the Warriors. So go and check that out. Coming up after the break, the Cavs are undefeated, and we had a couple of firsts for the NBA season. Somehow lost in the shuffle just because, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers and they've been rolling to start the year. The Cavs moved to 9-0, surviving a early first half scare where they were actually losing by quite a bit. Yeah. As they beat the Pelicans. The Pelicans lost Zion for a little bit in this game. Seems to have dodged injury. I think he took a knee to the quad. But, the Cavs rolling 9-0.
Yeah, first of all, the Pels can't sustain another injury. That would just be brutal for them. So glad Zion's okay. But look, the Cavs, first time in franchise history, they're starting 9-0. I believe it was 8-0 since the 1976-77 season. So this is historic on all fronts for them. They're clicking on all cylinders. One of the best offenses, one of the best defenses, just absolutely rolling so far in the regular season.
And look, speaking of rolling, we talked about him on the show yesterday. Kevin Durant just continues to roll. His late game performances. This guy is Mr. Clutch to start the season. The Suns are now 7-1. They beat the Miami Heat. Feel like you got a bold take that to get off your chest.
I do. And you know what? It is 8 games in, but we're doing podcasting for a reason. You know what I mean? So, right. Look, Kevin Durant right now, if the season were to end tomorrow, would be my MVP. To your point about the clutch stuff, he's one of the best clutch players in the league this season, plus 4.7 in the clutch, shooting a ridiculous 67% from the field. Had another dagger tonight against Miami. He's averaging 27 points this year on a ridiculous 55, 42, 81 shooting splits. Playing defense on the other end. This is a guy who's coming off a crazy Team USA season or summer, and now also leading the Suns to this incredible start. So yes, if the season were to end tomorrow, KD is my MVP.
It's crazy to me what these old guys are doing. I'm just, it's astounding. I hope they can keep it up all year. Knicks and Hawks, which has become a rivalry really just because Trae Young versus New York exists. Well, Trae gets another win over New York, 121-116. And then after the game, man, Trae, he has really embraced this villain role when it comes to the Knicks. He's so
good at it.
And he said, he's like, look, the Knicks fans are getting out of here fast. But look, not to be lost in this, we had a career night for the, number one draft pick, Zachary Ricochet. He becomes the fourth youngest player in NBA history to score 30-plus points and have no turnovers. I mean, this guy is kind of the missing piece for them. Like, I told you how much I liked Atlanta coming into the year.
Yeah.
Him, Jalen Johnson had another great game. I mean, Onyeka Okongwu coming off the bench is incredible. I mean, they're doing stuff there. It's still a play-in team, but at least they're fun.
Yeah, and they're missing a couple guys. Like Kobe Buffkin isn't playing for them. Bogdan Bogdanovic isn't playing for them right now. DeAndre Hunter isn't playing for them right now. Like, they're still missing a few guys, too. And so I kind of agree that they're frisky. For what it's worth about Ricochet, I think that was the best rookie performance we've seen so far this season.
Rookie of the year. I mean, let me make a bold prediction. That's my rookie of the year so far.
There you go.
Way too early rookie of the year. Not to steal your thunder on the KD thing. We had our first buzzer beater.
Yes.
Last night. Brandon Miller gets a game-winning putback off a LaMelo Ball miss to bring the Hornets over the Pistons. And I got to tell you, you know what? The Pistons went for a quack 2 in this. They did a quick 2 at the end of the game. They were down 3.
It worked.
They were down 3. Jaden Ivey takes it in, gets a layup. Yeah. And with 20 seconds left, they're down 1. Okay. It worked for them because they did wind up with the lead.
Yeah.
Which they
Ron
then
Holland.
blew immediately. Ron Holland makes a great play. They blow that immediately. But Brandon Miller gets the game winner, our first buzzer beater. That was fun. That was a great way to start off this day.
Yeah, and LaMelo was just hitting some crazy shots in that fourth quarter, like step back after step back, the three-point shooting. Like, when he gets on a roll like that, it's incredible. One thing I'll say, I was ready. I was very ready to come to you with a Pistons have won 3 games in a row for the first time since April of 2022. They failed me. They failed me.
Probably not going to happen anytime this season. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget, shoot us your emails at NBADaily@theathletic.com and go and subscribe to The Bounce. My buddy Zach Harper writes the best basketball newsletter on the internet. For S. Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.